Hi guys, David and David here from Payette4.com and Upphone.com, and in this video we're going to show you how to set up an Oculus Rift S on a Mac.
This is a bit of a departure from our normal videos, which are usually about iPhones and cell phone plans, but this video doesn't exist yet, and I had talked to Oculus support at one point. They said it couldn't be done, but I'm here to tell you it definitely can be done. Oculus Rift S works perfectly with the Mac, so we're going to need a few different things. We're going to need, obviously, the Oculus Rift S headset. Comes with that. The Mac. Makes sense. This is an eGPU, which is an external graphics processing unit, which has a graphics card inside. David, would you just pick this up?
I will pick this up for you.
Yep, this thing comes out. It's the coolest thing. So I picked up a graphics card on Amazon, which is an AMD Vega 64 Radeon. The reason I chose AMD and not NVIDIA is that AMD works well with the Mac operating system. NVIDIA does not. So we use this also for editing YouTube videos like this one. It makes Final Cut Pro go faster too, works perfectly for games, even tried it with World of Warcraft. Full settings, 10 out of 10 on everything, 4K display, perfect. So it's amazing. It turns your laptop into a gaming rig. So I'm gonna put this back together. Also I have, okay, let's put that together.
You got it.
An external SSD. This is for the Oculus game storage because I have a 512 gig hard drive in my Mac, which is not going to be big enough for the Windows operating system, which we need, and all the games. And the last thing I have here is just a little USB-C to USB adapter, which is necessary to connect the USB port on the Oculus Rift S to the USB-C port on a Mac.
Sure.
So we're also going to need, last thing, an external display. And this is a workaround because the only real issue with this setup is a display driver issue that will happen between the Mac and the eGPU in Windows. For some reason, they don't get along as well as some people would like you to think, but there is a really cool workaround that I discovered. Well, trying to get this to work myself.
Great, yeah, and we just talked about a ton of products. Every product we just mentioned is listed in the description section below, so you can buy all the stuff that we're going to show you how to use in this video.
Yep, and we're going to walk you through the whole process step by step, including installing Windows and getting that set up with the Oculus Rift S, and then David's going to try it for the first time. He's never even
I've never tried an Oculus Rift before. This is exciting.
Yeah, so we're going to clear off all the stuff we don't need from the table, and let's dive into this video.
Great.
All right, thanks.
So we're back and everything has been cleared off the table.
We're going to download the Windows operating system from Microsoft's website. I have a product key that I've already purchased. And we're going to download the Boot Camp Windows drivers just in case we need them when we boot into Windows. I'll show you how to do that. And then we're going to install Windows on the Mac. So I've already downloaded the Windows software, and just check the description section below the video for these links.
Yep.
And so in my downloads folder, I have this Windows ISO, and then this Windows support folder came from Boot Camp. So I'm going to use Command Space and just type in Boot Camp Assistant. What you could do before you even start this process is just head up here to Action and click this Download Windows Support Software button. And then this is going to ask you where you want to save this folder, the Windows Support. You just put it in your downloads. What I did is I downloaded that. These are the Boot Camp drivers. And I zipped it. I was going to zip it up. I thought I had done that already. And then what you do is you copy this to an external USB drive.
Okay.
This is kind of a precautionary measure in case anything goes wrong during the installation. You can then reinstall the Boot Camp drivers in Windows to get everything working properly. So this compresses. I'm just plugging this in to show you guys what I have here. There's also a command in the description section below that you can type into Terminal to format your external drive correctly for Windows. I just called it WinDrive here, and I've got this Windows support.zip. The reason I zipped it up is because it copies faster to the external drive. So I'll eject this for now, and I'll abort this because I've already done that. So we're going to now go to Boot Camp Assistant, and install Windows. So I'm going to click Continue. This is an important step here, choosing how big you want the Windows partition to be on your Mac. I recommend choosing at least 80 gigabytes if you can, because the Oculus Rift software needs 23 gigabytes of free space to download in addition to the Windows software. Now you can install Oculus games on an external drive, which is what we're going to do, but the Oculus software itself needs to be installed in Windows on the boot drive. So we need to have a bunch of headroom so that we can install Oculus. And then when there are future Oculus updates, we want to also have room for those.
Yes.
So Windows, I'm going to drag it over here to about 80 gigabytes. It automatically selects the ISO image from the downloads folder. Just click install. Continue on back. Let's plug it into a power source.
There you go.
Here we got that.
For best results, connect your computer to a power source before installing.
It's a no-brainer. Well, I connected it to a power source. We're just going to say continue on battery power because it's connected. So what it does is it goes and downloads those boot camp drivers again. There's no way to stop that from happening, but it's good if you did decide to use the external drive to do that. This is going to take a few minutes, and then it's going to reboot into Windows. So
cool.
This is the waiting game. Boot Camp Assistant wants to make changes, so I'm going to enter my password.
There it is.
Now it's going to reboot, and we're going to install Windows. Okay, time to fill some stuff out. Click Next. I already have a product key, so I'm going to enter that now.
Nice.
I accept the license terms, and now some more waiting.
More fast forwarding.
Time to answer some more questions. United States, yes. Just a moment. Yes, that's the correct keyboard layout. Want to add a second? Nope, skip. Let's connect you to a network. When you do this setup on a Mac, you have to choose I don't have internet. Then after you install Windows, Boot Camp installs the Wi-Fi drivers, and then you can connect to the internet. So just choose I don't have internet. I'm going to choose continue with limited setup. Basically, I'm going to keep my Windows installation as light as possible so that all the power for the computer is set aside for the Oculus Rift and it's not doing a bunch of stuff in the background that's unnecessary. Who's going to use this PC? David is. Next. Super memorable password. Security questions. Just a moment. Do you want to personalize more stuff? No. Get help from your digital assistant? No.
Pass.
All of these services? I'm just going to turn everything off. All right, welcome to the Boot Camp installer. Tap Next. I do accept. Install.
More status bars, loading screens.
This is the same software that we downloaded on the external drive. In case anything ever goes wrong, we can just reinstall it. Boot Camp installer completed. Restart system recommended. Finish. Okay, here we go. Okay. Let's log in. Just tap the trackpad. Welcome. So far so good. If this was as difficult as the process was, then you wouldn't need to be watching this video. But now we have to connect the eGPU and we have to connect the Oculus Rift and we have to do a few different things. Okay, OneDrive, to get this to work correctly. So what we need to do is put the eGPU on the table and get the secondary display ready. The long and short of this whole process is that we need to disable the internal display and use an external display because of the display driver conflicts that happen between the internal graphics card and the external graphics card. I have tried a whole bunch of different combinations. There is no way to get them to work together correctly, as far as I've found at this point. So it's a really cool workaround. Also, what happens with the Oculus Rift when you're playing a game is it uses screen mirroring. So it puts whatever is on the headset on the display, either of the laptop or the external display. So the laptop display, after we disable the internal driver, is only going to work at full resolution. And that means it's close to a 4K display. And without using the accelerated graphics with a driver, it slows everything down to a crawl. So that's the other reason why it's important to use an external display. So what I do is I set the external display up, set it to 720p resolution. That way, all of the processing power of the eGPU and the computer can be sent into the headset and everything works amazingly. So let's get the eGPU on the table and also the secondary display.
Okay.
Just give us a second. So Windows is all set to go. First thing I'm going to do is connect to the Wi-Fi network because we weren't able to do that during setup. Easy way to do this, just tap down in the type here to search box, type in Wi-Fi settings, hit enter, show available networks. Yowie, let's do the 5G version. Cool, connected, secured. So now we're on the internet. Next thing I'm going to do is plug in my external SSD drive because that is going to be where I store the games. This has to be Windows formatted. Plug that in over here. Oculus. So in Windows, you actually have to click the little folder down here and you can see that drive over here in Oculus, the D drive. This is the Oculus folder that I'm going to put this stuff in.
Okay.
The next step is to download the drivers for the graphics card itself. You don't need to download drivers for the enclosure. That just kind of works, the Razer Core X eGPU, but you do need the drivers for the graphics card. For me, I had to go to AMD support website. You can find a link to that in the comments section or the description section below. Yep. But I've already downloaded those drivers and I've put them on the external drive. So these are the graphics drivers. I'll just double click. Say yes to that. Where do we want to install these drivers? I'm just going to install them on the Oculus drive. Make a new folder, I'll just call it AMD. And I think this might put them in that folder already. You would think that Windows would be smart enough to download and install the correct drivers for the GPU all by itself, but it's not. Even with Windows Update, it doesn't work right.
Brutal.
Okay, cool. Drivers are extracted. This is going to ask if we want to go through this process. I'm just going to say, nope. We'll X out of that. All we need are the drivers to be in a folder because we have to do some of this stuff manually. So let me just say right now that if you run into a black screen issue, which is kind of the problem that a lot of people have, you can always reboot your computer into safe mode. Just hold down the power button. It'll turn off. It'll try to turn back on. You get the black screen, hold down the power button again. Then the next time you turn it on, you're going to be able to get into safe mode by going through a couple of prompts. Then you would go to Device Manager, which we're going to do in a second anyway. I'll show you where that is. And then you would be able to disable the internal drivers. So if you disable the internal drivers or you disable the external drivers or you uninstall them, then you'll be able to reboot into Windows and the black screen issue will be solved. It might not all work, but it'll be solved. So that's just if you get a black screen. So next step is to actually try to plug in the eGPU and cross your fingers. First thing, you have to plug it into power. Then we need to plug it into the computer. It comes with a Thunderbolt 3 cable. Make sure that you use their cable. For instance, you can't use the regular Mac power cable. However, what's cool about this thing is that you don't need to use the Mac power cable. This will actually power your computer. So I'm going to go ahead and plug this in to one of the ports. Doesn't really matter which one. I have found it works best if you stick with the original one you chose though. So it says we're setting up a device VGA controller, VGA compatible.
There's something happening.
The fans are going. Device is ready, VGA controller is set up and ready to go. No, it's not. So this is not VGA controller. That would not work for Oculus. We need to actually install the correct drivers. And the way to do that is in Device Manager. So I'm going to X out of this window. So on a Mac, Command X. On a PC, if you're using a PC keyboard, Windows key X will open this cool little menu. And then you can just tap Device Manager. And what we're going to see over here is that we've got our Radeon Pro 555, which is the internal graphics card. That was set up correctly during Boot Camp installation. What we're going to do is we're going to double click on Microsoft Basic Display Adapter, tap Driver, and then choose Update Driver. Now, Windows would love to search automatically, but it's not going to work. So we're going to say Browse my computer for driver software. Now we're going to click Browse and go to the D drive. Just click on AMD, hit OK. It'll search the subfolders and it will install the correct drivers. The other drivers to take a look at may be these AMD high definition audio device drivers. I'm just going to see if we can update those too. This only took me 3 hours to figure out how to do it. At this point, you might want to give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel. because that little trick right there is totally worth a thumbs up, guys. Come on, give us a thumbs up. So this is going to install the drivers. We might see some blinking or some display stuff. Okay, the drivers are installed. Black screen. So now what we get to do is diagnose the black screen issue.
Great.
And we're going to do it together. What I am going to do, though, is plug in my external display. Now, you could actually use an HD TV for this if you don't have an external display lying around. Okay, so we plugged in our external display. Nothing's showing up. This is actually good because I wanted to be able to show you guys how to diagnose and fix these black screen issues, because this is the problem that people run into. So first thing I'm going to do is just turn off the computer, press and hold the power button. You'll hear the fans go off in the eGPU when it's off. So now we're going to try to reboot into Windows. Fans will turn back on. Now don't get your hopes up if you see the Windows logo, because you'll always see that.
There it is.
Yeah.
My hopes are up.
Black screen, nothing's working. So now what we have to do is get ourselves into safe mode. We are going to turn this off. We're going to disconnect the eGPU. So this is the issue where the display driver of the internal AMD Radeon card and the external card really do not get along well. Okay, we're going to try it again without the eGPU connected. And this is going to get us back into safe mode, I believe. All right, great. So what we want to do is choose See Advanced Repair Options, and then tap Troubleshoot, and then tap Advanced Options, tap Startup Settings, and hit Restart. This is going to let us get into safe mode. And what we need to do is disable the internal display driver, because they don't like to work together, so we just turn off the internal one, we only use the external one. Enable safe mode is 4. All right, we can get back in now. And what we're going to do is go back to Device Manager. So Command X, Device Manager. So right now the Radeon Pro 555 is disabled. What I'm going to do is just uninstall it completely. And let's delete the driver software for this. Now let's reboot. This is where we want to be. We can see everything on the external display. There's nothing on the internal display. I'll log in. All right, tips, let's get out of here. Okay, but now we do see stuff on the internal display and on the external display. Here's why we need to use an external display, because internally the graphics card is disabled because we uninstalled that driver software, we deleted it. However, we don't want to be using this at all because it's just going to slow down the Oculus. So what we can do in Windows is just right click and go to Display Settings, come on down here to the bottom, and it says Multiple Displays. Instead of extend these displays, we want to say show only on 2. We're going to keep these changes, and we don't even have to check make this my main display. Now you can breathe a sigh of relief, because because now when we restart Windows, it's going to boot, and it's going to, the internal display is going to be off, but the external display is going to work perfectly every single time. So Command X to get back into Device Manager. Apple keyboard issue, but that's no big deal at all. And we can see we've got display adapters. We got the basic display adapter, which is now the internal one, but that doesn't matter. And we've got the Radeon RX Vega, which is the external eGPU, which is driving the display and working perfectly. So that's what we needed it to do.
Perfect.
So let's X out of this. I'm gonna plug in my external drive again, just to make sure that all works. Nice. Oculus. Great. So we've got our external drive, we've got our eGPU, we've got our internet set up. Now it's time to download the Oculus software.
All right, let's do it.
Just go to Microsoft Edge over here, the best internet browser. Just kidding. Oculus download, just say. Oculus setup, works for me.
Look at Bing coming in clutch.
Yeah, Bing.
Surprised I got the top result right.
We love Bing. Download software, I'm just gonna say, choose run. Yes. Welcome to Oculus. Let's get started. Review. Did you read them? You read them.
Of course.
So the Oculus app needs at least 13.2 gigs of space, but then you also need the space to download it, which is the other 7.27, which is why I recommended an 80 gig drive, because when you have to update it, you need more space. And I ran into an issue the first couple of times I installed this, because I tried to use a 50 gig drive and it didn't work.
Gotta give yourself some room.
So Oculus software is installed. Next, you'll create an Oculus account and set up your headset. So I'll say next. Oculus was bought by Facebook, so it's real easy to just sign in with Facebook. That's what I'm gonna do. Yes, I want to switch apps. VR downloads. This is important. This is where we're gonna choose the external drive. I'm gonna say change location. And Oculus over here in the D drive, just choose this Oculus folder. If you need to, you can create a new folder in the D drive by just tapping new folder. Okay, continue. Select your headset. We have the Rift S. GPU driver update. So at this point, I'm just gonna say skip setup for now, because what we're gonna do is we're going to update Windows first with Windows Update to make sure that we're running the latest version of Windows. So I'm gonna close out of the Oculus software and then come down in here to search and type in Windows Update. Head to Windows Update settings. And let's just say, check for updates. It says your device is missing important security and quality fixes. At the same time, it said no updates available. So that doesn't make any sense. But more waiting.
More downloads. That's what a lot of this is.
So updates are done downloading. Let's restart now. So if you run into a black screen issue here, what we need to do is reboot again. So the Radeon RX Vega is not working correctly. Let's unplug it. And let's plug it back in. We'll try the other port on the side. All right. So if you run into that issue where the Radeon isn't working correctly, just unplug it and try a different USB port on your Mac. Simple.
Simple enough.
Yep. And let's go back and just update those settings again. For display settings, we want to make sure that we're choosing to not extend displays, but show only on 2. We're going to say keep those changes. Additionally, right now we've got a custom scale factor. I'm going to turn that off. We're going to turn off custom scaling and sign out. It'll log back in. So this is by default a 1080p monitor. Because of the performance issues that can happen, I'm just going to bump this down to 720p. This has to do with the screen mirroring with the Oculus. So let's take another look at display settings. And when you look in here, make sure you click on 2 first before you try to change anything. Then you can come down here and it has the recommended resolution of 1920 by 1080, but we're going to bump that down to 1280 by 720. Keep this. That means that pretty much all of the graphics card power is going to be devoted to the Oculus Rift, which is what we want, and not to the screen mirroring on the secondary display. So as you can see, there's a funky Windows screen on this internal display. That's okay. It just means that this is disabled. So now everything is working correctly. All we need to do is open up the Oculus app. Let's plug it in. So would you grab the Oculus from over there? Okay, great, David, thank you. And would you grab the controllers too? Thank you. Now, obviously there isn't enough room in the studio for us to do a full demo, so we're gonna end up taking this all out into the other room in a second. But yeah, here I'm just gonna take out this boot camp drive. Stick this here. Right now there aren't any devices that are set up, no devices found, but let's go ahead and add a headset. Select your headset, Rift S. Continue. Connect your headset. All right, so we need to connect the USB port to the computer, and we need to connect the display port to the eGPU. Now, Oculus recommends connecting the USB port first. I'm gonna put this over here. So we should see that show up in the display. Yeah, if you run into a freeze here, you're just gonna have to plug it in and then reboot. So then I'm gonna plug in the display port to the back of this guy. And we'll just reboot. All right, so we will log back in. All right.
Hey, look at that.
Different USB port.
Change the USB port for the win.
That's the key. All right, continue. Controllers are all set. Health and safety, it makes you watch this whole video. So at this point, what we need to do is go out to the other room because we don't have enough room in here to actually make this thing work.
Well, let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, so health and safety video. We'll see you in the other room.
So we got it set up. Let's actually play. There's a waterfall and trees. Oh, it got cool now.